Do you ever feel like life is moving way too fast and you're just trying to keep up? In a world that glorifies busyness, we often miss out on the beauty of slowing down. Today, I'm going to invite you to step back, to take a breath, to discover a peace that comes from living at an unhurried pace. So let's learn together today how to embrace stillness and find God in the quiet moments of life. As a recovering person addicted to staying busy, I know firsthand what an overpacked schedule looks like and what it can do to your mind, your body, and your spirit. In our fast paced world, we often wear the name busyness like a badge of honor. I mean, literally, it's our society's default setting. We've trained our bodies and our minds to run at full speed, constantly juggling multiple responsibilities, just trying to keep up with the demands of life. Because oftentimes God's voice is in the silence, it's in the stillness, it's in these small nudges and the quiet whispers of life. But when we're moving too fast, we can miss out on it entirely. We can run through our day from one event to another, simply forgetting to stop and say, God, I'm here. Thank you for being present with me, and thank you for guiding me every day. The pace of life often is so overwhelming with technology and constant notifications that it's like we're all running on this invisible treadmill that never seems to stop. But what happens when we don't take time to slow down? I kind of like to describe it like a balloon with a slow leak. Every day, a little bit more of our energy drains out until we're exhausted. We crash. We're sick. We're drained mentally, physically, and emotionally, and we can barely even lift our heads. And I remember a season in my life that was just like that. I was working a job that probably should have been a job for 3 people, but it was actually one position. And I was so exhausted. I could barely lift my head. I could barely even move. And so much, my body was just so drained. And I started getting sicknesses. I started getting backaches and pains I had never felt before. I had so much on my plate. And this was right before vacation. So again, I was probably pushing even harder because I was trying to get everything done so I could go and just simply rest. But when I got to my vacation and I rested, that resting felt uncomfortable. The resting felt uncomfortable because I was so used to moving so fast that I didn't realize how tired I actually was. And in fact, my body had been screaming at me to slow down for days, probably even months. But what if the act of slowing down was normal? What if Christ is actually asking us to take moments of slowness in our life, to take moments of stillness with Him? What if living a hurried pace to life was actually unusual? Sounds odd, right? Well, if you look at our society today, the usual thing, the normal thing, is to go at a fast pace, to hustle and continue to move and succeed. But what if slowing down actually would be much more better for your soul, your mind, your body, and your spirit? And actually, I think we've probably conditioned ourselves to believing that sitting still is wrong and running at the speed of light is actually commendable. In the book, The Unhurried Life by Alan Fadling, he talks about following Jesus' rhythms of work and rest. Jesus knew how to step out of the busyness and linger with the Father. And he invites us to do the very same thing. Mark 1:35 tells us, very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up and left the house and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Jesus often withdrew to quiet places to connect with God, something we desperately need to do and we need to practice in our own lives. When we slow down and we make time to be alone with God, we align ourselves to the pace of Jesus, the sacred pace of life. This isn't about being lazy, it's about being intentional with our time and with our actions. The Good Samaritan story is a good picture, a symbol for what happens when we live the hurried life. You can find this story in Luke 10:25-37. I'm going to read verses 29-37, but I encourage you to read the whole chapter to get a better understanding of what led to this story of this man asking Jesus, who is his neighbor? Verse 29 begins, "The man asked Jesus, 'And who is my neighbor?' In reply, Jesus said, 'A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place where he and saw him, passed on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He then went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. 'Look after him,' he said, 'and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have.' Which of these three do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hand of robbers?" The expert in the law replied, "The one who took mercy on him." Jesus told him, "Go and do likewise." The Samaritan man's compassion was rooted in being unhurried. He saw the wounded man, he had compassion, and he took action. He wasn't rushed by the demands of the day, and because of this, he could be present in the moment to take care of the man in need. That when we slow down, not only do we experience spiritual refreshment like the living water that Jesus promises us, but it also opens our eyes to the new people that are around us, to the people who may need to see love, to see care, to see compassion. There are so many benefits that we can receive by living an unhurried life. I want to share with you 3 practical steps that you can do to start living an unhurried life today in this busy world that we live in. Don't try to do them all at once, but start slowly and incorporate them one at a time into your life. Step number 1, embrace stillness and silence. In our busy world, it's easy to fill every moment with activity and pack our calendar full of things. But Jesus often made intentional action steps to move away from the crowds, to go to quiet places to pray to God. In Mark 1:35, we see him withdrawing early in the morning to connect with the Father. And we need that too. In Matthew 11:28-30, where it says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." So how can you embrace the stillness and the rest and the quietness of life? Honestly, you can start with 5 to 10 minutes in the morning or at the end of your day to sit in stillness with God, to sit in the quietness of that moment. Sometimes you might need to wake up about an hour before your kids wake up, or go to bed after you put your kids to bed, or after all the things are done for the day, so that you can really sit in those moments of stillness. You can take mini breaks throughout your day. Maybe this is at the school pickup in your car. Maybe it is while you're waiting for your children at soccer practice. Maybe it's after or before a work meeting, or simply while walking your dog, where you just take 5 minutes just to sit. And if it helps, get a cup of coffee or some tea and just sit and sip on that warm drink and just feel the love that God has for you. And if you get distracted, if things come into your mind, make a note of them and get back to the stillness. Because it's not easy to sit in the stillness. And sometimes we have so many things going through our head that we just need to write it down, and we'll get back to it later. Number 2, prioritize your rest and time of reflection. Busyness isn't the same as productivity. And sometimes the most productive thing you can do is rest. Jesus knew the value of stepping away from the crowds to find rest, and he invites us to do the same. In Matthew 11:28-30, we see Jesus inviting us to come to him, to learn from him, and he will give us rest. When we come to him and let him carry the things that we're burdened with, that we're overwhelmed with, we can find rest. We can unpack that load, that baggage that we're carrying with us, and give it to Jesus and walk a little bit lighter throughout our day. So how can you do this? Well, you can review your schedule. Look at what you have planned in your daily and your weekly schedule. Eliminate 1 to 2 things that may provide you more time for intentional time of rest and refreshment. And you can even call them, or you can even schedule them, honestly, in your calendar and call them rest stops. Kind of like when you're driving down a long road and you're going on a road trip and you just need to stop for a moment and take a bathroom break and get up and walk around and simply rest from the journey. These are intentional times where you do something that is restful and restorative. It's not simply just sitting around and looking at the sky or looking at the wall, and it's not simply doing nothing. It's actually doing something that brings you joy. This could be going for a run, creating art, crafting, getting a massage, taking a bubble bath, playing with your kids, going to brunch with some friends, whatever it is that brings you joy and brings you into a place of rest is what is meant for this moment. The goal here is not to hurry in your life, not to pack it so full with all these things that may end up stressing you out because you don't have any time just to simply be. But it's to help you to figure out what to do with these intentional rest stops. And sometimes you might just need to write a list of things that you enjoy doing that brings you joy and refreshment, because oftentimes our lives have gotten so busy we've forgotten what we like to do. And actually, this happened in my life. I got so busy with life, so stressed and overwhelmed with life, that I forgot that I loved creating art. I loved painting and drawing and just creating whatever that may be. I forgot that love that I had in my life. And when I had started taking times of intentional rest, I filled it with creating art. And that brought me so much joy, and it actually helped me to reduce a lot of the stress that I had. And if you simply don't have a lot of time in your schedule for extended rest, schedule short breaks throughout your week. This could be a 5 to 10 minute walk after a work meeting, during a lunch break. It could be honestly 5 minutes in the middle of meetings, sitting with a cup of tea and a good book, or writing in your journal. Carving out these moments, these intentional rest stops throughout your day will allow your mind, your body, and spirit to reset. Remember, stress is not normal in our lives, but rest also does not mean that we are lazy and we're doing nothing. But rest is actually a crucial part of our lives as passionate, faith-filled people. It's a part of our lives that helps to renew us, helps to restore what has been broken, helps to fill us back up with God's love so we can pour it out to other people. So what 1 or 2 things can you eliminate in your week that will allow you more time of rest? Or if you don't have an insanely packed schedule, what 1 or 2 times during the week can you strategically plan for rest? Plan for something fun. Plan for something that brings you joy and brings you less stress and a moment of peace. And number 3, live with intentional presence in your everyday life. The story of the Good Samaritan shows us a little bit about what it means to be present in your life. When you're present in your life, you're not just kind of going with these blinders on down a racetrack. You're actually walking with your eyes wide open, seeing, noticing, and even walking a little bit slower so that you can notice the beauty in nature. You can say hi to a neighbor or a friend, and you're not just constantly going just to get something done or check something off your list. But what we see in this story is that this third man, the Samaritan man, noticed the man who was hurt because he wasn't rushing to get to some place. When we're constantly on the go, we miss those small but significant opportunities to connect with one another. So how can you do this? You can practice being fully present in every moment that you find yourself in. When you're with your family, your friends, even at work, focus on that one thing at a time. Not everything that goes through your mind, not everything you have to do on your to-do list, but focus on that moment. If something comes to your mind, jot it down on a piece of paper so that you can return to it later. But in that moment, simply be present where you are. One trick that I love to do is I actually like to take my phone and I like to turn it over so that the screen is actually on the table so that I can't see if notifications come into my screen. And that allows me to be more present with the person that I'm with. Because often we know that if we have too many notifications coming into our phone, that we get distracted. We look over at our phone and we wonder who just texted me. What post did somebody just tag me on in social media, or what a myriad of things. But when we turn our phones over or we turn them off or we put them away in our purse or in our bag, we can be present with that person that we're with. And being present helps us to engage more with that person and engage with God deeply and authentically. And that allows us to live authentically in our daily lives and also helps us to slow down a little bit. So I want you to reflect. How can you live out on each of these steps? How can you carve out moments of stillness and silence, even if it is 5 minutes? Even if it is when you roll over in the morning and just sit there for 2 or 3 minutes before your dog comes jumping in because they want to go for a walk, or your kid comes running in because they're ready to go have breakfast or something. But how can you carve out those moments of stillness for 5 minutes? How can you carve out time in your schedule for intentional time of rest and joy? And then how can you continue to be present with your family and your friends each and every day? So write in the comments one thing that you're going to do this week to cultivate an unhurried life, to slow down a little bit, get off that treadmill of life, and continue to live the beloved life today. So if you have any topics, Bible themes, studies, whatever you would like me to cover in this channel, please do send me your thoughts. And I want you to remember, you are loved. So let's be the beloved, let's live as the beloved, and let's radiate God's love everywhere we go. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button so that you can be notified every time we post a new video. Until next time, my friends, stay blessed and be loved.